once a year at Yoga Works, and then I do it at other places. This class specifically is a very kind of a brief overview to crystals and to chakras. There's a lot that I can talk about as far as crystals and chakras are concerned. I've taught classes on chakras that, let's see, we met 8 times, about 2 hours each. So that was a good 16 hours just on chakras, not even on crystals. I've done crystal healer certification programs. That one, I don't know how many hours that was, but also, we met a number of times and we talked about crystals, how to use them. So there's a lot to say. And this is just a basic overview, and you'll get a chance to ask questions. I love questions. I'll also talk about what to do with crystals when you bring them home. So how to clear them, where to put them, how do you know that the crystal is for you? How do you know when it's not for you? Because sometimes what happens is we go and we buy crystals and then we realize they are actually being sneaky little things, and they want to go somewhere else, and we're just kind of a way for them to get from point A to point B. So that can sometimes happen. So I'll talk about that. But first, let's start with questions, or because what I find is kind of people come in with some things that they'd like to learn or know. So I always want to ask, like, what is the number 1 or number 2 thing that you'd like to get out of this today?
Well, I have some crystals at home that I bought for the different chakras, and I know that I have issues with like 4 chakras in particular. So how do I use the crystals to help me with those chakras? And then also too, how do I because I know I need to clean them and clear them first. So I guess it's the clean and clear, and then how do I use them to help with those chakras?
Perfect. So like technically, do you hold them? Do you put them somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody asks that. Yeah. All right.
I'm wondering how crystals can help your chakras, and how you know which crystal goes with which chakra. Is it something about the energy or the vibration of the crystal? And I'm curious about the history of this. How long has it been around? I'm very much a newbie.
Okay. In terms of history, I'll jump around a little bit because I also want to tell you a little bit about my work with crystals and my background. But what I know is that in ancient Egypt, they used to use granite and marble quite a bit. I'm sure there was more. I think they used quartz as well. I'm sure there's more. I haven't studied it too much, but they've been around longer than we have been around. In terms of did the prehistoric man use crystals? I don't know. But I do believe that when we look at different historical artifacts, there is a reason why they use a particular crystal or gem, aside from the fact that it's expensive and the king wants to show that he has a lot of expensive things. There's a reason why they put something in the crown.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm sorry,
Come on in.
I'm late.
Come on in. We're just starting.
Okay, that's great. My daughter had a tournament, so.
All right. Did she win?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So just get settled. I am going to let me give you a little bit about my background, about what I do, and about how I started working with crystals. So I am an energy healer. That's what I do professionally, and I'm also an energy reader. People come to me with all sorts of issues, from I lost my mojo, what's my purpose in life, to something specific. I have this autoimmune disease, and I'm working with medical doctors, but they're taking me so far. What can I do as far as the mind-body-spirit connection goes? Or I've been in therapy I have clients for 10, 20 years, and I figured things out in my head. Everything's okay, but for some reason, I just can't let things go. And usually that's because, yes, we figured it out, and yes, our brain has let it go, but our body hasn't. So energetically, we look for things that we can remove, baggage that we can remove, and also energetically, we can look for things that we can attract. So for example, there is a lot of power that we have in past lives. So a lot of people who are attracted to the healer profession, they have been a healer in the past. Some of them have met pretty tragic deaths, as we know, historically, at least in the modern history, the witch trials and the other fun things like that. But some of them, they've actually have been very powerful healers, and so we're able to tap into that as a resource. And then, of course, none of us comes to this life pure. We like to think that we're born all pure, innocent, and clean and clear. We're not. We bring with us everything that our parents haven't healed up until the time of conception. That's with us. And there's a field that actually studies that. It's called epigenetics. There are some very good studies in that field, specifically with Holocaust survivors and their offspring and children and grandchildren, and to see how the trauma that the grandparent or the great-grandparent has experienced, how that impacts us down the line, because it does. For example, I've had clients from different cultures, they'll say things like, I got this anxiety for no reason. It's like, I feel like the other shoe is gonna drop, and there's no reason for it. Everything in my life is perfect, yet I'm constantly looking over my shoulder. Why is that? And this is when we look at things other than this life. So that's the type of work that I do. And chakras, why I love the chakras is because they really form the basis of that work. So what I'll do is I'll look energetically at each person's chakras and see how the energy moves. And I also get pictures. So maybe I'll see a picture, let's say, of a house and a family. And depending on where in the chakra system I see it, that's going to tell me a different story. So for example, if I see this house in the first chakra, it's going to mean something different than when I see it, let's say, in the throat chakra. Different story, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the stories. How I use crystals in my practice, several ways. One is, I'm lazy. So why not use tools? So in my office, I'll have crystals set up in a particular pattern. We call it gridding, which will bring in certain type of energy. So for example, I'll have a lot of high vibrational crystals in my room. High vibrational crystals are the ones like this one. And I'll pass it around. This is a selenite. Selenite is a crystal version of white light.
Is it the TV rock where you can see things?
Yeah, sometimes actually, sometimes the TV rocks are called calcite.
Oh, okay.
So I actually, it's funny you ask it, because this particular one was sold to me as a TV rock, and I thought I bought a calcite. And then when it came in, and I wish I brought that one. I have a couple of these calcites. They do, and you can go like this, and they kind of magnify. So I contacted the seller and I said, no, you gave me selenite. It's still a pretty awesome crystal, but it's not a calcite. But sometimes these are also called TV rocks.
And the selenite's high energy.
Very high energy. Selenite, so think of angelic energy, that's what selenite is. Mm-hmm. So by my door, by my entrance to my house, I have a number of selenites. So when people walk in, they get washed. Mm. That way they come in nice and clean. And I also like to combine selenite, thank you, with tourmaline. Tourmaline is, I've arranged the crystals here from lower chakra to higher chakra, except for that one, because the light hits it better over there. Vanity above all. It removes negativity. And I don't like the word negativity, because when we say negativity, protection, what we're implying is that something is attacking us. But on the other hand, it's an absorber. So how I think about that one is I think of it in terms of a sponge. You know, your kitchen's dirty, which is kind of a neutral phenomenon. It's just dirty, right? You're not going to get mad at the countertop for being dirty. Maybe you'll get mad at the kids for doing whatever they did and not picking it up, but you can clean it off using your hands, or you can clean off your kitchen counter using a sponge. So that's what a tourmaline is. It's a sponge, and it's really good to keep in an office. Not because in an office there's bad energy, but because in an office there are a lot of people. And every person brings with them something which is not yours. And so we kind of pick it up during the day. That's why a lot of times we'll come home and we may not be physically tired, but we're emotionally drained. And so a lot of times we just pick up other people's energy. So this one is good. You see it sold a lot these days in little pendants. This is actually not that. This is a bear claw from a Russian bear, from a female bear. How do I know it's a female bear? It's smaller. This one is, it's cool, and it's also grounding. So when we work with crystals or with natural objects, such as a bear claw, a bone, a shell, a coral, all of these, they come from earth, and they're very grounding and calming and peaceful. Tourmaline, I always like to use it together with selenite. And the reason is, I think psychologically, kind of what we're doing is we're absorbing things we don't want and we're cleansing them. We're infusing them with white light. So it's kind of like taking the trash out in a loving way. So instead of saying, you bad, I'm going to absorb you, right? We're just kind of calmly using it, and then we're sending light and love to it. And another good reason to use these two together, selenite and tourmaline, is that when you use tourmaline just alone, it absorbs. That's what it does. It's an absorber. So you have to clear it quite often. And with selenite, it clears automatically. So some crystals are master cleansers, meaning they can cleanse other crystals. So selenite is one of them. You can use selenite to clear other crystals. Other ones you can use to clear is a citrine. Citrine is a yellow one. You typically see it in jewelry. It's kind of bright, beautiful yellow. And kyanite. I did not bring a kyanite. I usually have it in all sorts of places, but for some reason it didn't come today. Kyanite, it looks like a little blue blade. And citrine and kyanite are the only two crystals that don't acquire negativity. What that means is they never get dirty. They are crystal equivalent to silver. So when we work with base metals or any objects, all objects interact with their environment. And pretty much all objects will absorb something from their environment. Silver does not absorb. Maybe that's why, was it silver that they use a silver stake for vampire, right? Probably that's why they use silver. And the other ones do. So silver, citrine, and kyanite, they don't absorb. They're always clean and clear, and we can use them to clear other things. And the way to use them to clear other things is to just kind of put them next to them. They don't even have to be touching. Selenite, it does need to be cleansed from time to time, but not very often. How do you clear crystals? Well, I already talked about clearing them with other crystals. But there are simpler ways. One is to wash them. Now, some crystals, you don't want to get them wet. So, for example, this one, when I first bought it, it was very shiny. It was, it was even more shiny than this. So this is another selenite. And you see, if you kind of look together, this one's kind of dull and this one is still shiny. Mm-hmm. That's because this one, I've been kind of holding it in my sweaty hands a lot. And so I rubbed the shine off. But if you get selenite wet, it's not going to melt like chalkwood, but eventually it'll melt. Mm. Selenite is gypsum. On the hardness scale, it's a 2, meaning it's very soft. So if you were to take, sometimes you can even scratch these things using your nail. They're very soft, these particular, the selenite itself. So if you have a nice shiny piece of selenite, don't put it under water. But if you just buy a raw one, like a blade, you can wash it. You'd be surprised how dirty it is. And by dirty, I mean physically dirty, like the water is gray. Also, the act of washing a crystal does two things. One is it removes whatever it has acquired before. And crystals do come to us dirty because people have been handling them. Especially if you buy it from a show, chances are they haven't been cleansed. And so we want to do the same thing we do to our clothes. When we buy it, we want to wash it, especially the clothes that we're kind of wearing next to the skin. And then the second thing the washing does is when you hold it, you're kind of infusing it with your own energy, so you're charging it.
Salt too, no?
Salt. Salt is good as well. So salt is, you got to be careful with salt. I wouldn't put crystals in salt water because it can destroy them.
No, salt by
But
itself.
dry salt, yeah. Dry salt by itself you can use, and especially for crystals that you can't get wet, salt is good. Salt is also good for jewelry, because jewelry you can drop down the sink, and with salt it's a little bit safer. What you can do is you can take a little bowl of salt and have it on your dresser, and when you take off jewelry at night, you can put it in that salt and it'll cleanse it. Because jewelry, so for example, I'm wearing, this is a type of a quartz. So this and this are the same, and kind of the same. That one's a smoky. This one, I'll pass it around. It's a cool one. It's a Herkimer diamond quartz. What that means is it comes out of the earth shaped like a diamond. You see how it has two points?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was born. Usually how quartz is born is more like this one. You see how this one has been cut right here? So they usually come in clusters. So there'd be a lot of crystals like this attached to a bigger piece. The Herkimer ones, they just kind of come like that.
Very pretty.
Yeah. So, and this one right here, turquoise. This is a turquoise. So the crystals that come in jewelry, they're just as powerful as these big ones. And you can use them. So don't undermine the power of